Champion, Episode 3, Speed is Not Progress.
Pre-launch. Diagnostic, velocity check. Technical note: the crawler transporter is equipped with a jacking, equalization, and leveling system that keeps the payload level to within 10 minutes of arc, approximately the thickness of a dime over the width of a football field. Speed is not the priority. Stability is. Moving fast is easy. Moving carefully is engineering.
Champion Washington learned to read at 4 years old from a woman named Mrs. Patterson, who ran an unlicensed daycare out of her living room in Liberty City, and believed that children who could read early would have an advantage that no one could take from them later. Mrs. Patterson was 63 years old and had raised 7 children of her own and approximately 200 other people's children over 4 decades. And she had developed a philosophy about early childhood education that was both simple and inflexible. Teach them to read, teach them to count, teach them to sit still and pay attention, and everything else will follow. She did not believe in coddling. She did not believe in participation trophies. She did not believe that children needed to have their feelings validated every time they felt something. What she believed, what she had seen proven over and over in the children who passed through her living room and went on to do extraordinary things, was that competence was the foundation of confidence, and that a child who knew how to do hard things would not be afraid of hard things later. Champion sat in the front row every morning. Not because Mrs. Patterson assigned seats. She did not believe in assigned seats. She believed children should sit where they felt they belonged, and that where they chose to sit would tell you everything you needed to know about who they were going to become. But because Champion had figured out at 4 years old that the front row was where you went if you wanted to hear everything and miss nothing, Mrs. Patterson noticed. She noticed the way Champion tilted her head when she was confused, the way her eyes tracked left to right across the page even before she understood what the symbols meant, the way she absorbed information not like a sponge, which was the metaphor people always used for smart children, but like a scientist, testing hypotheses, discarding what didn't work, building on what did. By the time Champion was 5, she was reading at a 2nd grade level. By the time Champion was 6, she was reading at a 4th grade level and had started correcting the other children when they mispronounced words, which Mrs. Patterson had to gently redirect because being right was not the same as being kind, and both mattered. Geneva noticed. She noticed the way Champion devoured books, the way she carried them everywhere, the way she read at the kitchen table while Geneva cooked dinner, and at the bus stop while they waited, and in the car on the way to the grocery store, her head bent over the pages like she was trying to disappear into them. She noticed the way Champion's teachers, first at Mrs. Patterson's, then at elementary school, then at middle school, called her in for conferences not because Champion was struggling, but because Champion was so far ahead that they did not know what to do with her. "She's gifted," they said, every single one of them, as if gifted was a diagnosis, as if it explained everything, as if it absolved them of the responsibility to figure out what to do with a child who was reading advanced literature in 5th grade and asking questions about structural inequality in 6th grade and writing essays about the sociology of speed in 7th grade that made her English teacher say, "I don't think I'm qualified to grade this." Geneva, who had been gifted once, who had been told she was special and destined for great things and capable of extraordinary achievements if she just kept running, did not trust the word. She trusted results. And the results were, Champion was smart. Dangerously smart. The kind of smart that could take you places or trap you in your own head depending on what you did with it. The kind of smart that made people uncomfortable because it asked questions they did not want to answer and noticed things they wanted to pretend were not there. Geneva did not want Champion to be smart the way she had been fast, a gift that could be taken away the moment you made a mistake, a future that could disappear the moment you miscalculated, a promise that could turn into a punishment if you did not protect it carefully enough. So she taught Champion to be careful, not explicitly. Geneva did not sit Champion down and say, "The world will punish you for being too much of anything, so learn to be just enough." She did not need to. Champion learned it by watching. By seeing the way Geneva moved through the world with precision, with control, with the constant awareness that every choice mattered and every mistake had consequences. Champion learned to be excellent but not showy. Champion learned to win but not celebrate too loudly. Champion learned to know the answer but wait to be called on. Champion learned to be the kind of smart that made adults comfortable instead of threatened. The kind of smart that said, "I am capable, but I will not make you feel incapable." The kind of smart that understood that intelligence was a tool and tools should be used strategically. By the time Champion was in 8th grade, she had learned something else, that being smart was not the same as being fast, but the two things lived in the same part of her body. The part that wanted to push, to test limits, to see how far she could go before something stopped her. Mrs. Patterson had seen it first. The day Champion finished reading an advanced novel at age 11 and came to daycare, even though she was too old for daycare by then. But Mrs. Patterson still watched her sometimes when Geneva worked late, and asked questions that made Mrs. Patterson realize this child was connecting dots that most adults would never see. Mrs. Patterson looked at this brilliant, serious, too observant child and understood Champion Washington was going to run. Not just on a track. She was going to run toward everything Geneva ran away from, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop her. By the time Champion was in high school, the pattern was clear. She was excellent at everything. Not good, excellent. She ran the 400 meters in 52.8 seconds as a freshman, which was fast enough to qualify for the state championships, and slow enough that no one was calling her the next Geneva Washington, which was exactly where Champion wanted to be. Visible but not scrutinized, successful but not burdened with the weight of being exceptional. She maintained a 4.0 GPA without apparent effort, the kind of student who turned in essays 2 days early and answered questions in class with the precision of someone who had read not just the assigned reading, but the footnotes and the bibliography and the author's other works. She was editor of the school newspaper by junior year. She was captain of the track team by senior year. She was accepted to Clark Atlanta University with a full academic scholarship and a partial athletic scholarship, which Geneva had insisted she apply for even though Champion had not been sure she wanted to run in college, even though the idea of running felt like stepping into Geneva's shadow and Champion was not sure she wanted to live there. But she applied, and she got in. And Geneva, who had not cried when Champion won her first race or brought home her first perfect report card or got accepted to college, cried when the letter came. Champion found her in the kitchen, holding the acceptance letter, tears running down her face. Champion said, "Mama, what's wrong?" Geneva said, "Nothing's wrong. Everything's right." Champion said, "Then why are you crying?" Geneva looked at her daughter, this brilliant, fast, careful child who had just been given the future Geneva had lost, and said, "Because you did it." Champion said, "Did what?" Geneva said, "You became everything I was supposed to be, and you didn't have to lose anything to get there." Champion felt something twist in her chest. She said, "Mama, I'm not you." Geneva said, "I know, you're better." And Champion understood, standing in that kitchen with the acceptance letter between them, that this was both a gift and a burden, that Geneva had built her entire life around making sure Champion had the opportunities she had lost. That Champion's success was Geneva's vindication, that running away from Geneva's shadow was not an option because the shadow was the only thing that had kept Champion safe. She went to Clark Atlanta. She ran track for 2 years and then quit because running felt like performing someone else's story and Champion wanted to write her own. She majored in public policy because she was good at analysis and better at understanding systems and best at seeing the places where systems failed people who looked like her. She graduated summa cum laude. She got a master's degree from Georgia State. She got a job with the city of Atlanta doing budget analysis, which was exactly as boring as it sounded and exactly as important as no one wanted to admit. She ran half marathons because running without a coach and without a scholarship and without anyone's expectations felt like freedom. She built a life that looked nothing like Geneva's and everything like the life Geneva had wanted for herself before the calculation stopped. And Geneva, who was 51 by then and working as a medical billing specialist and living alone in a small apartment in Opelika after Ernest died of a heart attack at 63, watched her daughter from a distance and felt something she had not felt in 30 years. Pride. Not the defensive pride of a mother who needs her child to succeed in order to justify her own sacrifices, but the quiet pride of a woman who had carried a rocket to the launch pad and watched it fly. Champion called her once a week, visited once a month, sent money when Geneva's hours got cut, did all the things a good daughter does, and never asked about the father who was not there. Never asked why Geneva had named her Champion. Never asked what it had cost Geneva to give her a future that looked nothing like the past. Until the day Geneva called Champion from the hospital and said, "I need you to come. Now. there are things I need to tell you before I run out of time. And Champion, who had spent 31 years being careful, who had learned from Geneva that speed was not progress and that moving slowly and deliberately was the only way to survive, dropped everything and drove to Miami. Because sometimes the only way to move forward is to stop running long enough to understand where you came from. And Champion Washington, who had been running her entire life without knowing it, was about to learn that the fastest thing she had ever done was stand still and listen. End of episode 3. Next episode 4, Fort Valley, Part 1.